harmony, a space for healing conversations and heart led truth. Today's guest is the soulful Natalie Bedard, lovingly known as NatNat, energy healing specialist, host of the Lift Oneself podcast, and a pioneer in the emotional healing space. Through her powerful work with nervous system regulation and trauma informed support, NatNat teaches people how to return home to themselves, where peace, safety, and emotional sobriety reside. If you have been running on emotional autopilot or seeking clarity in the chaos, this episode is your moment to exhale. So, NatNat, the term emotional sobriety is so resonant. How do you define it? And how did it become a pillar in your own healing journey?
Emotional sobriety means that rather than using the things that would numb you, that you're willing to face it and you're willing to feel the emotions. Many of us think our feelings, we don't actually feel it in our body and hold a sacred space to allow the processing of that. Why? Because it's very uncomfortable and it can be very messy, and our behavior gets impacted by it. Yet, the more that we hold space for understanding that our emotions are messengers, many of us think that it's our identity. And it's actually sensations and feelings that are being, relived from probably past experiences or a lot of BS, which is belief systems. So once you're willing to lean into that, you're able to dismantle a lot of narration and things that you once believed in or things that you once defined, that you're able to transform those things and transmute them.
Absolutely. So, was there a personal turning point where you realized emotional sobriety was the missing piece?
Well, I almost died 11 years ago because I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum. So my body was in crisis and shut down. I was hospitalized for almost 40 days. And I was discharged without a diagnosis. So that means I didn't have a plan. And I was a single parent to three boys, and the twins were 4 years old at the time. So imagine rambunctious 4 year olds, and you have a body that has very low energy and you don't have a plan. Therefore, I had to go inward. And in that, I discovered there were a lot of suppressed emotions that were stored in my body that were disconnecting the homeostasis of my body being able to communicate with everything. So, by doing that inner work, I started to learn more profoundly about the nervous system and, trauma. Trauma is the nervous system defining the experience as harmful and painful and not wanting to repeat it. So it keeps you away from the space, the gap, as Rumi says, between, these two places, I'll meet you there. So between stimulus and response in that space, that is where you find your authenticity, where you find the peace, where you find the flow. Yet our nervous system will stop us from going in there because there's vulnerability, there's emotions, there's being able to trust yourself and being whole with a W. So the work is to always remember to come back into that space of openness and being able to hear the channel, the communication that's being transmitted inside you, not on the outside. Many of us are grasping for things on the outside, and you're always to begin on the inside and recognize that is where your power is. It's simpler. Yeah, it's easier said than done. Yet that's why it's called warrior work. When you start to understand your biology and you don't try to tame or overturn it or overcome it, you actually work with it. You have a better understanding of what, radical compassion is, what empathy is, what the power of choice is, and recognize that these emotions or feelings, they're not your identity.
That's so powerful. Healing isn't just about stopping chaos, it's about choosing peace again and again.
Correct.
So, you specialize in nervous system regulation. How does that tie into emotional sobriety? And why is it such a game changer for people healing from trauma?
Will you join me in a mindful moment so we can demonstrate to the listeners what that feels like?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. And for the listeners, I'm going to ask, is it Aisha, your name?
My name is Anya.
Anya, sorry, Anya. When I ask Anya and myself to close our eyes, if you're driving or need your visual, please don't. Safety first. Yet the other prompts you're able to follow. So, Anya, I'll ask you to get comfortable in your seating. And if it's safe to do so, gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath. You're not going to try and control the rhythm. You're just going to be aware of it, allowing it to guide you into your body. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up, and that's okay. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now, there may be some thoughts or to-do lists that have popped up, or maybe even an event or a person. It's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts and dropping even deeper into your body, being in the space of being. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, beginning again, creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and completely dropping into your body, being completely in the space of being, observing. Just keep bringing the awareness back to your breath. Now coming back into your senses at your own time and at your own pace. You're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath. How did that make you feel?
That was amazing, like really relaxing.
So when we take control of doing these little check-ins, it was like about 2 minutes, we can finally see what's going on with our mental state, what we're feeling inside, and also creating a space of validating ourselves. We tend to ignore and dismiss, where validation doesn't mean that you're just going to allow everything to dictate you. You're just going to allow a space to listen. Listening doesn't mean agreeance. So there's sometimes your feelings or emotions might want to go attack someone or take a temper tantrum or want to shut things off. Yet you're listening to that to allow yourself to go even beneath what that is trying to signal to you, and allow there to be a space for you to honor your human side, honor that nervous system that has not been afforded a space to really feel all of the emotions. There's a lot of emotions that we have deemed as not good to feel, not safe to feel. So when those big emotions want to come up, Many of us don't even have the tools to navigate that energy when it's flooding our body. We go into knee jerk reaction and patterns. So that's why I created the emotional sobriety workshop to help people to start feeling in their bodies and acknowledging and giving voice to what their experience is. Your pain is valid, yet it doesn't mean that you are allowed to project it everywhere and also self harm yourself by dismissing and disregarding things. It's allowing there to be a space of wholeness.
That's amazing. So, what's one daily practice you recommend to help listeners soothe their system and recenter?
Well, the mindful moment that we just did, as you recognize, is very peaceful and you're able to access it. And if people, really feel that relaxation because of the tone of my voice, so I have many meditations on my website that they can access for free. Also on my podcast, I start our podcast with the mindful moment with the guests. There's also, what brings us into a high energetic state is listening to music and dancing. Dancing allows the body to express the things that the analytical mind may not want to express. So when we are dancing, it allows that somatic release of things that have been stored in your body that it can give it some expression without it going through that intellectual aspect. And when you can put high vibrating music, that changes your mental state also, and it energizes the body. Also, there's also sometimes that you want to emote and you're not knowing how to. So sometimes putting some soft ballads or listening to some music that would allow a space of safety to just cry and to let the tears come out. And unfortunately, a lot of people think tears are sadness. And it's like, no, tears can be frustration, can be elation, can be anticipation, can be joy, gratitude, and it can be all of those things all at once. Yet because we want to label it with just one thing, most times sadness is vulnerability and we deem that as sadness. Whereas sometimes it's fear, the fear of the helplessness, yet still choosing to keep your heart open. That will invoke a lot of tears. And that allows that steam that your body needs to just be honored, that it recognizes. And the nervous system is like, oh, you see me, you see the fear that's going on in the unknown and that we can't make meaning, yet you're still going to be in charge of the choices. So that's what it is to have that emotional sobriety, to acknowledge your body and also let it know that you are in charge of the choices and that you can walk into the unknown, the uncertain.
Incredible. When the body feels safe, the soul can speak.
Correct. Well said.
Mhm. Yeah. So, you have walked through illness, single motherhood, and deep transformation. How has your personal experience shaped your approach to emotional healing?
Well, as I said, my body was in crisis and I almost came close to transitioning, dying. Therefore, that experience sparked a sense of surrender in me, that obviously the way that I was going wasn't helping my body and I was coming close to death. So that surrendering and going through death, having a different relationship with death really transformed the way that I feel my emotions, I feel the fear, and how I show up with presence. Am I still human? Yeah. Do I still yell at my teenage twins when they are like ganging up on me? Yeah. Is this about perfection? No, this isn't about perfection. It's about accountability so that you know that when you have backtracked or gone back into a pattern, that you can acknowledge it and have radical compassion and have the accountability of beginning again. And also, doing the atonement. We have a space with my children that they're able to call me out when I do certain things and that they're not penalized or punished for that, that they have the autonomy to have a voice and not be in the authority of the parent knows everything and it's always right. It's like, no, parents make mistakes, and we project a lot of our emotions onto our children because we don't want to look at the reflection they may be showing to us. Well, not maybe, they are showing a reflection to us, and most times we don't want to look at that reflection. Yet if we have the courage and the strength to look at it, that's where the healing comes in. And that we can continuously keep going inward and keep going into depths that are never ending. There is no arrival. And that's one thing with the mind. The mind wants to always make meaning. So when you can learn to do these mindful moments and detach from that analytical mind, not telling it to shut down, not telling it to stop thinking, it's that you detach and you put your awareness somewhere else, which is in the openness, the vastness of the void, and that you can just be. That is where you get to start taking charge and owning the pen to your story and start listening from the inside, and then, seeing what can be transformed on the outside. Yet everything starts from the inside out. Yet many of us don't want to hear that because it requires warrior work. It requires accountability. It requires, rather than pointing your one finger out, those three fingers that are pointing at you are reminding you, where's your power of choice? Where is your power of shifting your perception?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So, what do you wish more people knew about the quiet power of emotional resilience?
Repeat that question again.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you wish more people knew about the quiet power of emotional resilience?
That's where you're learning about yourself. That's where you're allowing the static and the overwhelm of the emotions to pass through. And when you do it more and more, the silence is right there. You don't have to fight to get into that silence. It's always there and it's always in your presence. So when you're navigating in the real life, like a lot of people think, okay, well, meditation is going to help me. Meditation sitting on a pillow is your introduction to understanding your nervous system. Yet meditation is supposed to be in your everyday living, that you're in the presence, that you can interrupt the patterns, that you can stop and pause and ingest the information, not be in certainty. Allow your curiosity to unfold, to always search for the truth, because the truth is always evolving. What you have experienced is only one fraction of the truth. It's not the absolute truth and it's not the certainty. Yet the mind wants to be perfect. It wants to feel that it can predict everything, to, create the scenarios, to unleash your curiosity into the unknown, to stand in the power of I don't know. That brings a blissness that you can be in that silence and not feel threatened.
That's the truth. Resilience isn't loud, it's steady. It's grace under pressure.
Truly is.
Mhm. So, self care is a recurring theme in your work. For someone who doesn't feel safe within themselves, where does that journey begin?
It begins by acknowledging that you don't feel safe. Rather than saying that everybody else is doing this and doing that, that you take the power of I don't feel safe. And if people, like certain scenarios, say, you're around a family member and you get really uneasy and you feel criticized, okay, well, take a break. Yet cutting them off isn't going to resolve the thing that's within you, because how the universe is, it will bring the lessons to you. Everything might go great for about 2 years, and then all of a sudden somebody shows up and all those feelings pop back up again like a visitor knocking on the door. So a lot of people think that if I cut something off, it'll make it better. And yes, there's truth in that. Yet in the longevity, did you also resolve the things that were going on inside you and question, why am I feeling these ways? What is going on that has me so activated around this person? If there's physical harm, then yes, of course, separate yourself from that. Yet if there's criticism and judgment, it's allowing yourself to have a bit of a space of curiosity, of asking, well, what's going on inside me that's interpreting and giving power to this other person? Why am I personalizing it so much? where I cannot see it as that's their stuff. It's not mine. So, understanding your attachments, understanding the belief systems, understanding the narratives, also understanding the trauma. And as I define, trauma is not the experience that happened. We're not trying to live in the past. We are trying to find out what are those emotional charges that stops you from being in the space, in that space between stimulus and response, where your authenticity is, where your childlike is, where your openness is, the vulnerability. What is it that keeps stopping me from going in there so that you can take the empowerment and start building the tools that you require for your biology and your environment?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But how can we gently return to ourselves without judgment?
Well, when you're judging, I would ask you, what are you trying to protect? When judgment is there, it's trying to protect something. So if you can start to acknowledge, oh, I'm judging, or the inner critic is activated, ask yourself, what am I trying to protect? And a lot of times it's emotions, yet the emotion is sometimes abandonment, sometimes rejection, sometimes the feeling of helplessness, not being able to do anything, and feeling so out of control that it feels debilitating. So of course you're going to come to judge because I don't want that revealed. I don't want that to be seen. A judgment, say parents with their children. The judgment is the fear that your children might experience pain. And spoiler alert, they're going to experience pain. Pain is our teacher. Therefore, as a parent, the greatest thing you have to learn is you're going to have to witness pain that you can do nothing about. Like watching your child start riding a bike for the first time and knowing that, oh my gosh, they could fall off, they could break a leg, they can go into a car, they can do all kinds of things. Yet if you're always there rescuing, how are they going to learn their own autonomy? That's where you have to regulate and acknowledge that this causes so much fear in me, and then be able to find the tools in that. Yet it's truth. It's having to have honesty with yourself. And when there's judgment, it's reminding, okay, judgment is harsh, it's critical. Find the people that you can, create accountability, that they can remind you of the kindness, that they can help to co regulate your nervous system, and start journaling also, yet asking some questions, not to support the judgment, to actually ask, what are you protecting so I can allow the thing that's underneath it to have a voice, to really come and shine my authenticity.
Beautifully said. Self love isn't an achievement, it's a relationship.
Very much so. And it's always remembering that self-love is within you. It's just that you separate yourself from it.
Absolutely. So, for our listeners feeling stuck in emotional cycles, what's one mindset or mantra they can carry into tomorrow to begin the shift?
Lately, what I've been saying is, your healing is revolutionary. It's not selfish. Therefore, it's recognizing we're on it. There's no such thing as healed. Healing, because life is lifing, and there'll be events that will dysregulate your nervous system and activate the wounds. Therefore, it's always remembering to come back home. Come back home into your body. Come back home and validating and honoring, and also walking into the unknown and uncertainty to allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to expand, allow yourself to receive the abundance. And that is a continuous mantra to remind yourself that healing is not selfish, it's revolutionary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what keeps you grounded when the waves of life come?
My breath, my breath, constantly coming back to my breath and acknowledging that, oh, there's something heavy. My friend transitioned on November 27th. I assisted her in a 2-year cancer journey. And she was in hospice for 8 days, a body that was breathing, not on it, eating, not drinking, just waiting for the body to die is a very violent thing for the mind to have to experience. And I stayed by her side 24/7 and I held her as she took her last breath. And I put her in the body bag and I watched the cremation. And what grounded me in that is my breath and also the relationship I have with death. Was this an overnight thing? No, it took years of practice and lived experience. What's happening with many people is they're just theorizing things. They're just using philosophy or stoicism. And don't get me wrong, I'm very stoic in a lot of things because it does help ground you. Yet to be overly stoic denies some of your emotions and being human. And so it's being able to ground the spirituality with the humanness and remember that, yes, you are a spiritual being that is never ending, yet your humanness is limited. So, what are you doing with the time that you have? Use it as a tool, not a toy. So, just always be honest and create a kindness for yourself and bring context. The mind doesn't always bring context. It's always just black or white, where it's like, wait, give yourself some context and allow yourself some room to breathe.
That's the medicine. One breath, one belief, one brave choice at a time.
Very much.
So, Nat, thank you for guiding us back to our own hearts with such softness and strength. And to everyone listening, your healing doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be real. And until next time, stay kind to your nervous system, stay sober with your emotions, keep lifting yourself.